How's everybody doing? And welcome to the fish room. So today I'm kind of excited to do a video. I got like 4 or 5 ideas where I want to share stuff with you. I want to do certain videos, but I figured I'd just do a fish room tour. I'm going to talk about all of it in this video. It's been a while since I've done just a full walk around and actually been like excited to do it. There's a lot of little things going on right now that's not enough to share just one thing. But I think when I add them all together, it'd be kind of a cool just update on the fish room. As always, the guppy videos have been a fan favorite for most of my subscribers and others, so we're going to show a lot of guppies in the video today. I kind of want to do stuff that people want to see, and definitely gets more views, so why not do stuff that people like to see. But I am into the guppies as always, but a little bit more in some of the planted tanks. So we're going to do maybe add them together where I have a new planted tank. We've been doing updates on my 10-gallon carpet aquarium. Maybe not in this video, but next video, depending on what you guys think. I think I'm going to add some of my guppies in there. I have a really cool, potentially albino strain of guppies. I have a few babies we'll look at in a few minutes here. But depending on what you guys want to see, I think I'm going to put some guppies in there. Definitely I was planning on putting some shrimp, and I would like them to breed and not get the babies eaten. So maybe not do any fish, just a shrimp only tank till they kind of repopulate. But if you guys really want to, I'm thinking about doing some baby guppies in there. But let's go ahead, let's jump into the video. Let's look at the fish room today. I got a bunch of side things, little projects like I said. I'm gonna show that, kind of explain what I wanna do and some of my thoughts behind it. But let's go ahead, let's jump into the tanks behind me right here. And we'll work our way from the right side all the way down to the wall. So let's go ahead. So before we get too close and in depth on some of these tanks, let's just take a step back and look at everything. So here we have my 5.5 gallon fluval tank. We'll get closer to that in a second. We have my 55 gallon wall tank, kind of same old right now. This tank, I want to make it a really nice planted aquarium, get some new lights, bunch of new substrate, new plants, whatever, but I'm testing out on the 10 gallon tank, things like that, of what I want to do larger scale. So I'm testing out some plants that I want to potentially grow in there. If I want to do a dry start method and kind of sell the fish that are in there, move on. I had a 5 gallon there, I'm breaking that down. Like I said, I'm going to try to be quick and do an overview before we dive into these tanks. These are some tanks that have guppies that are growing up to be a little bit too big. They're babies, they're ready to start being separated from males and females. We're going to get one of these lights slid over. If you didn't check out, I got some new lights in my bottom 255s. That was my most recent video if you want to check it out. But we're going to slide the light over, at least for the video. We're going to take a closer look at these guys, which we haven't really done since they were tiny babies. And even then, we didn't have great light quality. So that's going to be pretty cool to take a close look at them. And in that little hang-on breeder box I have there, I've showed a few times, we have some of those albino guppies I was talking about. So those potentially might go over there in the 10 gallon, which I think would look really cool. And just because I just fed them, this is the tank full of the cherry shrimp and like the orange shrimp. They were originally an orange shrimp, but now they're turning into like more of a red. So these really are just like a cherry shrimp at this point. But I want to pick out a few buried females, maybe just like 6 or 10 adults, or maybe one buried female. Put her over in that planted tank. Let her see if she has all her babies in that tank, and then let them grow up for a little bit to a decent size, and then add some guppies or add some fish. We'll see how it goes. But I released the female the other day in this tank, and I know I'm already talking too much on these tanks, but we're going to go back and look at them closer. Just going down, we have our 55 gallon tanks. We're going to go more in depth on these, but we got guppies, we got moss, we got lots of bristlenose plecos. Here we have just a tub. I bought 3 of these tubs. I was going to do 3 of them side by side, do them halfway full, probably about 10 to 12, 15 gallons of water. Put a shop light over them, grow plants, let guppies have babies in those. Take a pregnant female guppy, put her in there with tons of floating plants, let her have her babies, take her out, let them grow up, kind of just do that. But I already decided, I got rid of so many of my other tanks for my fish room before that I don't want to get myself caught into. I have some open space here. I'm going to just fill every square inch I have. I'm content with what I have. I want to maximize what I have here. So right now it's just holding some plants I got for free from a friend. I did throw a trio of some yellow half black guppies in there. So maybe they'll breed in there meanwhile while I decide what I want to do. But coming down here further, the no water change tank is doing great. The nitrates are actually starting to drop a tiny bit. They're not super low by any means, but the nitrates in this tank compared to one of my other tanks here, I did a water test on both the other day. Just kind of curious. It hasn't been that established, and the plants haven't grown that much where I can really determine that it's going to start like taking care of itself. Because a lot of these plants I did add more to, so I didn't just add my initial plants and leave it, because I did get more plants from other people. Just kind of, they outgrew their tanks and they were going to throw them away, so they gave them to me. So I did add some plants, and I'm going to, once they fill the tank even more and I throw some away and let that kind of happen a few times, then we'll kind of be able to do more tests. But basically the nitrates in that tank were like 20 parts per million. Here was like 30 or 40 before the water change, and I did a water change here but not there. So we'll get more into that. Just to show you the full fish room and all my little side things, here we have some wisteria and a few guppies, and I have a little bit of a moss carpet back here. This is kind of cool. I can pull it up. I bought these little wire mesh sheets. I've seen other people do this, and I put some moss on there. I tied it down with some yarn. I'm going to see if I can get that to grow and just kind of be established, and I can move it to another tank. We'll see what happens there. Then backtracking to the right, here we have just a container of some moss. Some of my tanks had a lot of scuds in them, and I want to move this to a tank with it being scud free. So I put it in here. I've just been doing water changes on it and kind of wringing it out. And I'll leave it for a few days. If I spot a scud, I'll pull the moss out. I'll put it in another container, dump out the water, get some aquarium water, and then put the moss back in there. It's growing under these shop lights, but I just want to make sure there's no scuds and just kind of see if it'll grow just by itself in here. Those little bubbles I knocked off, those weren't there the other day, and there's no air being pumped into them, so I don't know if these are like creating, you know, plants will kind of bubble or like create CO2 almost. That might be going on, I'm not really sure, but it's pretty cool to watch these just grow and see new leaves. Even on moss you can see that different color growing. And I still have these two glossostigmas going, and I have this little side jar up here growing a little bit of moss. You're getting the full fish room tour today. You can kind of see it there. It's getting a little bit of light from the side, and I'll eventually maybe fill it up, throw a bait up there, or just see if I can grow like a little carpet of moss in there just by putting it in a container and kind of forgetting about it. Moving our way down, and this is almost more of a tour than a quick overview. I apologize, but like I said, I was really excited to do this video today. I got a bunch of ideas in my head. I'm kind of just running around thinking of things that I can show you guys, things that I want to do myself. Here is our saltwater tank. This is kind of a sneak peek for anybody that has been waiting for an update on this tank. There's been some good and some bad. I'm not gonna lie, it's not doing great, but I'll go over that once we backtrack and look at each tank. I'm not gonna get in depth on that, but it is definitely cycling and doing its thing, and it's becoming more established. I mean, it is what it is, and it's doing what it's supposed to be doing. Then moving over to the last tank here, this is just my brand new 10-gallon carpeted tank. We flooded it about a week ago, and I already can see some growth. We're going to talk about this tank for sure, and this is going to be the tank we're going to add some shrimp and guppies potentially to. I just added a air stone to it this morning, and I lowered the air, so you see how it's barely trickling out. I had a little bit more than that. Wasn't super fast by any means, but the top of the water was getting like a film of like almost dust on it because there was no circulation at all. So I cranked that up today while I was at work for about 10 hours. It kind of all mixed into the tank or got off the top. There wasn't oily on top. And then I lowered it back down a little bit. I want to maintain this and maybe do no filter at all. But I do have a sponge filter that's cycled I might put in here when I put the fish. We'll test the water. We'll see how it goes. But all in all, I'm really liking this tank. I think I can see myself potentially doing a lot of things with this carpeting plant. As you buy it from a seed, you grow it, then you fill the tank. This is called a glossostigma. That's kind of the short phrase for it. But it's doing well. I mean, while we're here, let's look at it. You can see all the leaves, and then if you look from above, it's easier to tell. But you see how there's like big leaves and small leaves in the middle? Those small leaves in the middle weren't there a week or two ago. However long it was I filled this, but those little tiny leaves in the middle, those are all new growth since the tank's been flooded. So I know that they're growing. I know I'm gonna have to start trimming it so I don't get algae on the top layer. That's why I want to add some shrimp too, to kind of graze around here and clean stuff. You can see right over here, there's a good dead leaf. Start trimming those guys that are getting a little bit too tall, because I want to keep this nice and short. I don't want it to grow to 2 or 3 inches high, like right up here, and then the bottom start to die. So I want to keep it short. I want to maintain this low carpet. I want it to keep growing. So So far I'm really liking this, and hopefully this tank can go for 6 months, a year with no problem, as long as I'm taking care of the actual water changes, not putting on too many hours of light where it gets a ton of algae, and just kind of maintaining it, trimming it, most importantly, trimming the plants to keep them low, have a high light so they keep growing and it just doesn't die off. I've read some reviews after about 3 months of this that they don't have good luck, but I'm assuming that's kind of a person that would just kind of let it grow and then never trim it or touch it. After that, I could see you running into problems, but I plan on trimming it and just letting the bottom stay nice and thick and kind of covering the bottom, getting a nice root system established, and just having a really cool tank. Jumping back to the 55-gallon tank behind me, this is what I want to do over there. So this 55-gallon tank, this is kind of where we're gonna get our video started, I guess, but I've already showed you a lot of stuff, just kind of rambling a little bit, but that's all good stuff. We're gonna get closer and look at some of the actual fish, but let me dim this light down for us so we can see past it. But this 55-gallon tank back here, I can see getting all the fish out of here, all the fake plants, getting a nice substrate in here, and maybe from like the middle over, we do all that carpet, that glossostigma all the way through, have a nice open area for fish to swim and stuff. Then here, maybe we do some large rocks, we do some stem plants, maybe some Amazon swords. I'm not really sure yet, but really build this back area up with tall plants, kind of like a jungle, maybe some driftwood. And then here, just have a real low carpet scape. And we could do guppies in there, we could do shrimp. I might go ahead and just buy some fish from the store and do some like neon tetras, maybe some cardinals. Who knows, maybe I'll get some angelfish in there, maybe even discus, who knows. I always like the discus. And I always thought it'd be cool to maybe just do one discus in a tank, because they can be a little timid, but if you take good care of them and you kind of get them young and you get them used to like dry foods and not being always eating frozen food, be real picky fish, they get like sick and stuff. That's a topic for another day, but if you feed them, I think dry foods are less likely to get sick. But overall, it'd be cool to kind of test that out, do a bunch of even like a ton of guppies and one discus. That's like kind of my style of a tank. Maybe not the prettiest thing, but that's something up my alley where it's something that people don't really do, so I kind of want to try it just to prove them wrong or to see if it's possible. That's kind of my approach on a lot of things. I want to do some things a little bit different. Just because people say you can't and then the logic says you can, I want to test it out and find out for myself. But let's keep moving through. This tank here, I had some pair of guppies and some moss and stuff. That's the moss we moved into the top container over there. And the filter from this tank, we stripped out the sponges. I moved them down here. There's in a container of dechlorinated water. The reason for that is I'm making sure there's no scuds that are inside of this. So I want to keep the bacteria alive. I need to move it to a tank and actually keep it with water pumping through it and have fish go into the bathroom and have just an actual aquarium to make sure I don't kill all the bacteria. But right now, it's going to stay alive for a few days, no problem, if not a few weeks. But I want to make sure I don't see any scuds swimming around in here, and I want to make sure there's no little babies. So kind of starve this, don't feed it any food or anything, give it a week or so. If there's any scuds, hopefully I'll spot them, get rid of them, or if there's any baby scuds, maybe they'll die from just kind of starving out. And then I can wring them out, put them in a new tank. There's still lots of beneficial bacteria, and then ideally I would put it in that 10-gallon tank over there, or just move it to a new tank and not have to worry about transferring anything I don't want to transfer. Don't get me wrong, the scuds, I actually do like them. They have their benefits. They're a good food source for the fish, but sometimes you want to start a tank off fresh and you just want to kind of not have anything in there at all, except for what you want to put in there initially. So that's why I'm doing that. For these top two 10 gallons, I already kind of gave you a sneak peek on the shrimp. There are tons of shrimp and there are tons of scuds. But this tank's doing well. I mean, the shrimp are breeding really easy. I mean, it just takes time. If you don't have any fish with your shrimp, they'll breed like crazy. Once you have some fish in there, they're just so small that they're eventually all getting, like, look at this right here. So we can see some bigger shrimp, some medium shrimp. See if I can zoom in. You'll probably lose focus a ton, but right there, see his little snail? Then to the right, there's a little shrimp behind his back. That shrimp is absolutely holding me right there. I know I lost a ton of focus, but now you can see in the middle, next to that snail, right next to my finger, that shrimp is absolutely tiny. It even looks bigger on the camera now than in person. So they're just so small. It's like the size of a baby guppy fry, maybe even smaller. And that's after they're big enough to see them. They were even smaller, like probably 2 weeks ago. That thing's probably 2 or 3 weeks old. So it just gives you an idea. If you have fish in here, even guppies or tetra, something really small, a lot of your shrimp are going to get eaten up. Even if it's really dense like this, you're not going to be able to feed them enough food typically. Like looking at the sponge right now, this is pretty cool. I can see 2 tiny baby shrimp. See those right there? Right next to my finger. We're going to lose focus, but you can see 2 in the bottom left and middle of the screen, but towards the bottom left of the middle and the top right. But those are absolutely tiny. There's a scud walking past the other. But if you back up and you were looking at this tank like from the blind eye, you would never see those shrimp unless you knew what you're looking for. But those are pretty cool. I've been looking for babies in this tank. A little side note, because I saw some buried females. So I got real close for like 10 minutes one day and I was looking at this tank trying to find like tiny shrimp. Because you see the pregnant females, you see the eggs in their belly. So you know once they actually give birth that those eggs are going to be the same size as the shrimp, if not even smaller, because they kind of absorb that egg sac, fish and shrimp, and they start off even smaller and then they start to grow from there. So make sure I refocus the camera. But yeah, really cool. I love the shrimp tank. I want to kind of do a shrimp only tank, which that 10-gallon might be, or maybe I'll have to just set up another tank. But let's keep moving forward. I do want to do a shrimp tank without the scuds, so I'm going to pull some from here, put them into a clean tank and not have any scuds. Not that they're really a bad thing, but when you have all the baby shrimp and stuff, I do think they're probably fighting for food and just competition. So who knows, maybe I'll eventually get all the scuds out of the shrimp tanks and maybe just keep the scuds only in fish tanks, or just kind of, I don't know, we'll see what happens with that. I'm not sure yet. Over in this tank, this is kind of cool. I had that net, if you watched my videos, it was hanging up on the top here, and I had it's actually right there, one of the younger babies. I had 2 actually older babies, and then the mom back there in the right corner. And I kind of just propped it up on the side of the tank like this, and they were hanging out so that the babies in there could get a little bit bigger. And now that they have, you can see they've put on a decent amount of size. I actually just released the parent and the mom and the 2 babies I think this morning. So I fed both sides, I let them eat for about 2 minutes, and I just dropped the net down, and this is what it looks like tonight. So they're all swimming around. She didn't eat any of the babies. They're a little bit too big for her anyways. This tank's doing well. Let's see, they had fry on 1-3, so what's today? Losing track of the days, but it's like 20 something. So they're probably about 2 weeks old, 3, whatever. They're a few weeks old. I'm not really sure. Sorry about that, guys. They're about 20 days old. The guppies have put on a lot of size in this tank. I feed them twice a day, crushed up food. They've been grazing like crazy because they don't have any competition. There's no adults chasing them. They're trying to hide and not eat. So they're doing well. These are probably about 20 minutes old, but I have some algae wafers at the bottom. The shrimp will pick at that. The babies will pick at that. So a lot of food source. Let's jump down to these bottom tanks for the first time seeing these guys. We're going to move the light over and actually see them for the first time. So this is kind of sloppy, but you get the idea. So we got the light over there. Let's get close. Let's actually look at the guppies. I'm excited to look at this tank on video and also myself, because just right now, I noticed a few of the babies with really cool color in their tails. This one particularly, actually let's see if I can point them out underneath. That one right there. So you see that one right now. Follow him for the next couple seconds here while we're talking. It's got really cool, like a yellowish orange tail with some leopard in it. It's got a few black dots. The rest of them, they have a few spots here and there in the tail, but not much color. That is the only one so far with any color, so I'm assuming it's going to be a male. Looking at it, definitely it looks like a male versus it's based off its body shape and also just its color developing first. Typically going to be your best looking male of the group. Sometimes they do it too early and they actually stunt their growth. So you might have a male develop later on that's going to be a much larger and stronger fish. Sometimes they develop too early and they don't really put on size. But me looking at him right now, he's in the back right, top right corner, kind of going around the box right now. But I definitely can see that is a male. So this is going to be one of those tanks we're going to separate into males and females here in the next probably week or so. The more I look right now, just talk with you guys, I can spot tons of males, I can spot females. I could probably sex this tank today if I needed to. But I'm going to move some things around in the 55-gallon tanks, which we'll talk about here once we move over to those tanks. But yeah, just looking at them right now, they're looking really good. I know it's hard to see, but just kind of focus your eyes up there. if you can see on camera, I can see there definitely are females with a little egg sac. There are males that are developing their bottom fins and they have no egg spots at all. So really cool. I'm excited about this tank. They are a little over 2 months old now. They were born on 11/7. Today is, I think, 1/20, something like that. I'm forgetting what day it is right now for some reason, but they're around 2 months old. Like this guy right here is looking really cool. If we can focus in on him. Yeah, there we go. You can kind of see him now. He is right there. You can see he's getting some pattern on his side. You can see his pectoral fin. It's definitely a young male there. Got some cool color. So excited to separate these guys, grow them up, and then pick out kind of like my best male and female. Maybe go through. I can see maybe one runt. This guy in the back right over here. He's got a little bit of a crooked back. It's kind of going out of focus, but that fish I need to call, and then the rest I think are looking good. This female here is a little bit questionable wherever she is, but yeah, out of 20 or so fish, I think there's maybe 2 or 3 bad ones. Not even bad, but just I want to be a lot more picky on what I actually raise and breed. I'd way rather have 20 amazing fish than 100 okay fish. So that's always been the goal, but I really notice it more and more now where I'm not in a rush, feel like I have to produce tons of fish and not run out. I'd almost rather run out and then take my time and really have the best quality possible and still have a decent price. But I think this tank looks good. I really like this light on it just for viewing purposes, so I really think I need to get some more lights down here so it's like this 24/7. Moving a little bit closer, and this video I know is going to be super long. I might have to make a part 2, or I might just have to kind of skip through the end a little bit. But this tank, you can see I separated these at tiny babies in this back breeder box. These are like a bright like lemon yellowish, or they're not really an albino. They look albino, but their eyes aren't albino. So it's definitely a name for this. I'm drawing a blank on it, but they're like a yellow guppy. They're pretty cool. I think I'm going to move these to the planet tank. These are the ones I was kind of talking about. I can see, I think I have 4 in there, and I have another tank where it's one of these, but it's like, it came from my yellow half blacks, which is really interesting, and it was that bright like lemon color, like albino, and the half of its body was black. I put that in, I think, the 5-gallon fluval planet tank, which I just remembered right now. I actually forgot to go back and talk about, so we'll look at that next. But this is cool. I can see a male down here. He's got that nice bright color, but also I can see a little bit of pattern to him, which is really interesting. And I know up here, she's behind, but there's definitely one male, one female. And then these 2 here on the left, like that's a female up there. These 2 here could go either way, male or female. I think there's at least one male, and the other one I can't really tell right now. I want to say there's 2 males, 2 females total, so that's actually pretty cool. But I'm kind of just looking real quick. I'm not focused too much on them. I'm trying to do the video at the same time. But that tank's really cool right now. Long story short, those are the guppies I was excited about, and those might potentially move to the Planet Aquarium. Looking at this tank here, next to it, this is the yellow half blacks. This is almost too bright with the contrast of the acrylic yarn. It's not focusing as easily. See if we can get a better view. But we got a lot of guppies in here. A couple of them stand out, more of a half black. Like this one here towards the top. And we're gonna be quick on this because it's not really focusing, but that one's like a half black. The rest are more of like a yellow, and they haven't developed much color. But these guys are about a month or so old, maybe almost a month and a half old. Doing pretty well. I'm gonna remove the acrylic yarn any day now and just let these guys grow up more till I can separate them males and females. Jumping back to the fluval 5.5-gallon tank, there is a reason I always not forget, but I remember once I'm recording any of my planted tanks with these really bright lights. It's a lot harder to record. It's almost too bright that it kind of shines against and you can't get a clear photo, which I mean is fine, but just a good thing. I always forget when I'm looking in person. I wish I could show you like what I can see right now. Like here you just see like brightness. When I'm looking, it's really cool. Like obviously like in person it's just not as clear, it's too bright. Maybe I could find a setting and change that, but all in all, I had someone ask me in the comments if I could find the comment. I'll post your name right here, give a little shout out. You wanted to see an update on this tank, so here it is. It did go through a little bit of an algae phase about a week ago on the front of the glass. I wiped it down, and when I did that, I actually uprooted some plants, so I had to replant them. But the algae has stopped. It's doing pretty well right now. The plants are growing, but this is definitely not a tank. If I had to do it all over again, I probably would pick a different plant. Because look, like over here, let's see if I can put my finger something to kind of mess up the light, or I'll just go blues. But like this plant right here is doing awesome. That's kind of how they all were looking. They're getting bigger, bushier, these two right here, and they just look really good. But they're not really growing like a root system where they won't just float away. So what I've been trying to do is like this right here, I kind of, something floated up and I just bury it pretty far, we can barely see it. Like that could have been this plant, and then I bury it and it looks like nothing. But I think that's actually gonna get more like established into the roots and not float away on me. And I did go through and I trimmed a couple of these. As you can see, just some chops here and there. I cut them down a little bit. But all these little random sprigs, that was my doing. They would float up to the top. Let me zoom back out. And then I would go down, find whatever looked like it had a root to it. And the other stuff I would just net out. I put 2 little sprigs of this glossostigma from the other tank, but I think I'm gonna take it out. I'm gonna give this tank time. I'm gonna let it do its thing. And hopefully I can eventually get a full carpet in here. It might take me 3 months, might take me 6 months, I'm not really sure. But I want to give this tank a chance and just see if I can really grow a thick full carpet. And then from there, just kind of trim the tops and just let it be one full carpet. I mean, that is my goal. I don't want to give up on it too early. But I've been replanting a lot of things, and kind of like that plant there. If one morning I will come over here and it's floating at the top, I'll break it into 3 or 4 pieces. I'll shove it down wherever I can find space, and then just give it time, and within a week or so, it looks like one of these plants over here, but I just need to push them down further so it actually doesn't need to keep floating up. But so far, I mean, the tank's doing well. The plants are growing. They're not dying on me, which was my biggest concern. So them growing and just up floating because I didn't root them the right way, that's not the plant's fault, that's my fault. I'm gonna live and learn with, I'm gonna learn with this tank. But 5.5 gallon tank is doing well. I got a few guppies growing out in there, which we'll take a look at once they're bigger, see what happens. But I don't know, guys, we have more tanks over here, more things I want to talk about, but I feel like I'm kind of running out of time. Really want to share a lot of stuff here, and I don't want to miss things out, so stay tuned. I'm gonna cut this video because I did a few breaks in this, so I feel like we're probably 20 minutes or so in. I got a lot of things I want to share. Our timers are going out on that last tank, but let's go through the rest of this stuff in a part 2. So thank you guys for watching this video. If you liked it, don't forget to like the video, subscribe if you haven't already, hit that notification bell so you know when I upload videos, and of course click this video on the screen right now. Whenever this video is up, it'll probably be up the day after this, so if you're watching it day 1, I appreciate you guys for watching this. Definitely the true fans. But this video is going to be out in a day or 2. We're going to go ahead through the rest of these 55 gallon tanks, the no water change tank, the bottom 29 gallon tank with tons of Plecos, the saltwater tank there, and we'll kind of take a closer look, maybe do some trimmings in the 10 gallon. But thanks again for watching, guys. If I didn't already put it on top of the screen, now you can click on that part 2 video. Check it out. Thanks for watching so far, guys, and definitely let me know what you want to see next.